Yoo-hoo! It's the time for package from China. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video, it's time to take a close look at the 3D game stick, or the 8K game stick, with EmuElec 4.5, the controller game stick, or also known as the X3 Pro. But what are we getting in the inside? So in here we're finding, I love to call it the toilet paper manuals, because those things makes no sense whatsoever, but some basic explanation, supports simulators or the emulators, and in here we're having some information, the parameter, in other words the specifications. It seems to be that the thing has the quad-core 905, 1 gigs of RAM, and this thing is also called the X2 Plus. So we have seen all kinds of different manuals, but this makes no sense. Two controllers, knockoff PlayStation controllers, and the overall quality is quite okay. Some of them feel but also smell kind of chemical. The ABXY buttons don't feel that bad. We're having the option for, we need to like two AAA batteries, and we're having the on-off switch over here. So that's actually what we're getting when it comes to the controllers. In here we're having the cable, the micro USB cable for the power. Then over here an extension cord, because this thing is a stick, but you can stick it in. Yeah, sounds kind of weird, but I mean in particular when looking at the form factor. And this is now called the X3 Pro. Make it even more, wait, so it is actually called the X3 Pro, but in the manual it says X2 Plus. So, okay, that's absolutely one huge confusing situation. But what's actually up with this stick? You can just see that this is just a random, let's say, Android stick they're using, but they added a very nice 3D game stick, 8K Ultra HD, and this nice X3 Pro overall, let's say sticker. And the way how they present it's kind of nice. So we're finding the SD card, and they're just using these non-generic 64 gigabyte, and you need to know that these things can go corrupted out of nothing. Yeah, that's just a general problem we're facing now. And so let's boot it up. Let's see if we can connect it with the television. For this configuration, we're going to be needing a power source. Normally you can sometimes use your USB from your television, but it is possible it will not give enough power. So we're getting a 5-volt adapter, around 2 amps should be enough. Before I forget, what is interesting with this very cool stick USB single thing going on, the downside of only having one USB connection, and we're having one dongle, and one dongle will connect to both of the controllers, and most of the time this works perfectly without any problem whatsoever. With the newer generation of, let's say, displays, the connections are most of the time at the bottom part. So this is a great example. So let's try it out if we can fit it in, and you can see it doesn't fit. So that is just a stick we're not going to be sticking in. We're going to be using the adapter over here. Very glad they're going to give us, because this was not a common thing. You need to buy them separately. Also, like a lot of things, like a shenanigans, I need to buy them separately, and you need to wait for everything to should arrive. But if we're going to be plugging it in, it's more like a game system now. Then we're going to be hooking up the USB, and the USB is going to be the micro USB at the side over here. And then we're going to be plugging this in. Another USB 5-volt, let's say normal charger. And if everything is connected correctly, it will boot up and we'll give you a short intro. That was kind of weird. And then we're having the menu. But let's take a close look at the menu itself. So both of the controllers have been configured automatically with the system itself. At the left bottom part, you can just actually see two of the LEDs, or actually like the tiny dots blinking when pressing a certain controller. So let's use the left controller. And what I do love about this particular like game stick, that we have all kinds of systems you don't see very often. I mean, particularly when you're looking at the old computers. Those are not very common. Most of the time they are going to be focusing on the 8-bit and 16-bit. And yeah, you have all different versions. Most of them will have the same platform, but different kind of sizes, where we're resulting in different kind of game lists. So the Nintendo DS, Nintendo N64, PlayStation, we do wonder like what is going to be running okay. Pressing start doesn't do anything. The same goes with pressing select. We do have the option to get into the settings over here, but pressing this is going to be a little bit of an, let's say, a very limited experience. Keep pressing the wrong button. Video mode over here, always show boot video. Okay, so let's shut that off. Reset input configuration, that's for the controllers, and the unlock setting over here. And then of course the unlock code that we can use, and with this we can unlock everything. Then we can actually get into some more configuration if it's going to be needing it. The main focus will be with the more demanding devices. Think about Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 1 and 64, PlayStation Portable. Yeah, there is all kind of different stuff that you can actually play. You can also see where you can make favorites if you want to. So I love this feature. That makes it so much more convenient to search your favorite games. But it's going to be quite interesting to see how far we can push the game stick itself. So it is even more of a cool thing that we have an option to search. Pressing the Y button in any list will give you the search option. So the overall design of the menu is very user friendly. So let's say we're going to be searching for Sonic. So there is all kinds of weird stuff. Over here we're seeing some weird stuff that don't make any sense. But in general it seems to be working just fine. And let's see at the back of the list you can see even what kind of platform. Where we do have Sonic over here, that doesn't show what it is, but let's boot it up. Let's see what kind of platform it will actually boot up. And let's see if it's going to be booting up at all, because that is also a common problem with these devices. It will boot up, yep, it will boot up RetroArch, and we're going to be having Sonic. The naming is a little bit of a mess, you can see over here, because this is actually Sonic and Knuckles. Didn't know it before, however, now we do know. But let's move into some Sonic and emulation performance. It's quite good. I don't really notice any input lag from the controllers. Pressing /start will give you the menu from the RetroArch where we can make a quick load, quick save, and we can actually close the content and go all the way back. Well, that is quite unfortunate. If you're going to be looking into some of, let's say, the listings, it is on alphabetic order so far I can see, but there have some this very strange numbering. So you can just see when pressing the L2 and R2, we're going to be scrolling very quickly through the list. Pressing L1 and R1, we're going to be using different kind of platforms. So the navigation in general is quite nice. I just wanted to see what is actually possible with the arcade. But most of the time, the really old stuff will run just fine on, let's say, the arcade part. It's particular when you're looking at some certain games when it comes to, let's say, a Killer Instinct or a couple of the games of Tekken that will not run on this. But there's a little bit of a downside that when it comes to emulation performance, you can hear, or at least I hope you can hear, that some of the games don't have like the perfect overall experience. And this is not lacking of the power of the stick, this is just a purely way how they configured everything. Going to the RetroArch over here, there is nothing we can actually do about it. That we can say, hey, let's go to a different menu and just try to figure out if we can just do a different configuration of the emulator. So now we just actually start with actually the stuff that we can see over here. So that's unfortunate. Crackling music. And a lot of slowdowns. We're starting off with some horrible emulation performance of arcade, but I just want to be clear that is not with every single game. So for example over here having some Sega CD with one of my favorite games I always love to play on my original hardware. Runs perfectly without any problem, any, let's say, audio glitches, or at least like problems, visual glitches, or no audio at all. And that's absolutely amazing to see that we can just emulate so much stuff fairly easy without any problem whatsoever. This also runs through RetroArch, so we're going to be having the same kind of quick load, quick save menu over here. So let's move into the Sega Dreamcast part, and it's quite interesting to see how good the overall emulation has become. With these very cheap game sticks, you can see some wasting going on when it comes to glitching, but the general, let's say, overall performance, it's quite good. The Sega SG-1000 is a system I personally never owned, and it's kind of cool to revisit this, where we have so many different devices now. This is a game that has been released on many different devices, so this is not going to be a super unique overall experience, but just fun to actually go back and just try this out. Man, this is so cheesy. Oh, I missed it out! Oh! N64 is a system that is going to be having some games that will not run at all, or having a lot of glitches. Did notice some glitching in the beginning, not of the gameplay, but when entering into the game itself and the emulator. But I'm quite surprised how the overall emulation performance is on these S905 chipsets. And yeah, there are some games, the more demanding games will have a lot of problems. I don't know what kind of emulator actually going to be using on this, because we cannot see. Pressing select start will give you the all famous RetroArch menu for a quick load, quick save, but there is nothing we can actually change out. But beside that, I'm quite surprised to see how the cruise in the world actually works out, because where the cruising user is going to be suffering and stuttering all crazy, like to the maximum level, the world version seems to be running just fine. And I think it's going to be the same like with Diddy Kong Racing and many other launch titles. When looking at some of the emulators, you will see some great performance, but with Sega Naomi, you're going to be having a hit or miss situation. With the reason because some of the emulators are quite, let's say, demanding when it comes to emulation overall performance. But so far so good. And don't notice a lot of problems with this particular game. So with PlayStation, it's always the same craziness that we don't have the audio, and it's such an annoying thing, simply because the audio is something we're going to be needing. It's the soul of the game. So that's unfortunate. They're doing this to save up space so we can slap up a lot of, let's say, PlayStation games, store them fairly easy on the 64 gigabyte. But this is not the way how you want to play and experience these old school games. But with the emulation itself, I do see some weird stuff going on with the cars that were glitching, but beside that point the emulation is quite good when it comes to the speed and everything else. So moving to the Neo Geo part, and with this we do have overall great performance. So I'm almost trying out this particular game because when it comes to emulation, like with the cheaper game stick, we do have a lot of problems, but this seems to be working all fine. The controller is quite nice for playing fighting games. It's not like the best D-pad. This has to do with the structure of the D-pad. But beside that, I'm quite surprised how good. Let's go to the analog stick. Seems to be working all just fine. And the same goes for the emulation. Glitches and a lot of shenanigans. That's what we're getting with the Dolphin Blue and the Atomic Wave. There's no way of like going into the mode and trying to fix with different emulators. It is what it is. So when it comes just to the old school games, they will run great on these game sticks. Everything will run mainly through RetroArch, so that's going to be great. So far I've been enjoying myself a lot. So when it comes to, let's say, some other stuff, so particularly when it comes to higher end stuff, there are going to be struggles and a lot of overall problems. However, these game sticks are using low power chips, and that's the thing they're doing. But one thing is positive, they are getting really cheap now when you're going to be looking into, let's say, some other pages. PlayStation Portable, like with N64, it's going to be a hot mess, with some games are unplayable. However, there are so many cool hidden gems on this thing. They're so much fun to play, including the Jetpack Joyride thing. This is such a cool game, and this is one of the games I mostly play on my Android phone or just using it on the emulator like that. A very basic addictive game that runs perfectly. Pressing select and start will not happen. Nothing actually happens. So when it comes to going back to the menu, this is just one problem, and the reason why, because we're going to be needing to reset the dongle, I'm guessing. Oh man, what a mess. But this game is kind of cool to play. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about the two joysticks you can actually press for getting into the menu. I just wanted to show off that we do have settings like 2x PSP. That's kind of weird. You know, you need to go into the PlayStation Portable emulator to double check if the settings are right, because sometimes it's setting it to 2x resolution. That is way too much for a cheap stick like this. But I was looking into the PlayStation Portable list, and if you're going to be looking through it, you can see all kinds of PlayStation mini games, and they are just great, you know. Those will have a lot of fun, with like hours of fun and a lot of hidden gems, and they are not very difficult to overall emulate. So yeah, so a lot of most of these games will run just fine. But if you're going to be looking into some Tekken or God of War, they're going to be having problems. So that's maybe one of the reasons why they actually like remove those. But he left the God of War. And some other ones. Oh, there we have. Okay, that's kind of weird. What happens to the... But I'll show you what I mean when it comes to, let's say, the most of the games, why they are going to be deleting them and not adding them more to the stick itself. Oh crap. I choose the wrong character. Doesn't matter, it's about the emulation overall performance. And where these will be playable, you will see that we do have a lot of like stuttering going on. So let's go to the game settings. Frame skip has been enabled, okay. So, but they're using 3 times PlayStation. What? Why? Just use Auto 101, you know? That's so weird. And make it overall better. And if you see, the gameplay is absolutely way better now. Okay, at first I had this idea that we have like a crazy lot of delay. But besides that, some of the games, the 3-dimensional ones like Tekken 5, will be running just fine. So we can actually enjoy it. But let's do a quick look into, let's say, the game stick. How is the overall quality? I already mentioned before, these SSD cards, you should back them up. It's absolutely a miracle that after playing this thing, been using it for quite a long time now and testing it out, that it still works, because I have seen some crazy stuff in the past when it comes to these game sticks. So I'm not going to getting a prior tool, because I don't think I'm going to be needing it, so we can open it up fairly easy. I think I need a pry tool. Let's get myself one. There's one laying around over here. Let's be very gentle. Okay, that's the clicking mechanism that we want to activate. You know what? Just slide it out. Let's do that, because I'm kind of done with this. Normally I don't do it like that, but somehow my other part don't want to open up. But let's see what we're getting in here. Just slapping a piece of metal on there. It's nothing very special we have seen before. Let's remove that piece of metal, and they are using the S905L like I was thinking they were using. They didn't put it on the box. This is not even cooling element, this is just a piece of, let's say, metal they're putting there. They're putting something on it, so that's good, because the metal is quite hot, but there was no, like, say, exhaust or some kind of a active cooling. This is as it is, and there was nothing much to see over here. I don't see any production date so far. So when it comes to the game stick itself, yeah, it's the same stuff that we've seen many times before. The emulation performance is not bad at all, particularly when you're going to be looking into these things. Sometimes they can become really cheap, and I think I paid around like $28 for this. So they're even putting some effort, putting some cooling on it, but it's just an S905L, meaning that it's a very old chip. Configuration with the controllers are also not bad. Where I find these things not like super bad. I did really enjoy myself playing. There's no rumble function in it, but when it comes to the software emulation, we do have a lot of stuff that doesn't run great. But for some people, it's going to be more than enough, I'm guessing. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing and let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and it would be great to see you in the next video.